Good morning. This meeting will now come to order, and I will read the EPSB mission statement. The Educational Professional Standards Board, in full collaboration and cooperation with its educational partners, promotes high levels of student achievement by establishing and enforcing rigorous professional standards for preparation, certification, and responsible and ethical behaviors of all professional educators in Kentucky. We will now begin by swearing in our new board members. On November 15th, Governor Beshear issued an executive order appointing C.J. Fryer and Priscilla Keller to EPSB. Mr. Fryer is appointed to represent high school teachers, and Ms. Keller is representing elementary school teachers. Ms. Sharp from the Office of Legal Services will now administer the oath to swear in our new members. Thank you, Ms. Sharp, for joining.
You have the chair. Mr. Keller, I will read the oath in its entirety. I ask you to raise your right hand. Completed, I'll ask you to swear. I do solemnly swear, or affirm as the case may be, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as I can be a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute, to the best of my ability, the office of board member of the Education Professional Standards Board according to law. And I do further solemnly swear or affirm that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state, nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending. So help me God. Keller?
I swear.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, we will start with Ms. Keller. Would you like to say anything to introduce yourself to the other board members or our audience?
I'm thankful to be here. My name is Priscilla Keller. I am a first grade teacher at Livingston Elementary School.
Mr. Fryer?
My name is C.J. Fryer. I teach up in Beechwood in Northern Kentucky, and I teach AP Calculus, Pre-Calculus, and an Intro to Education course. And I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. We are glad that you are now with us. Serving as our board secretary, Ms. Chesser will now take roll call.
Inland.
Present.
I am
Present.
Anya Edwards. C.J. Fryer.
Present.
Kathy Gunn. Priscilla.
Present.
Becca Mayfield. Corinne Murphy.
Present.
Meredith Pittman. Amber Snell.
Present.
Wade Stanfield. Vice Chair Reedman.
Present.
Chair Mitchell. We have quorum.
All right, we will now move to open speak. Ms. Chesser, do we have anyone signed up for open speak?
No, we did not.
All right, we will now move to our report of the commissioner. Byron Darnell will be joining us on behalf of the commissioner this morning. And I recognize Dr. Darnell to give the report on behalf of the commissioner.
It's working. Okay, it's kind of hard to tell from here. Well, I certainly won't speak for Commissioner Glass, and certainly he's put out a lot of the happenings around KDE, but most particularly around the United We Learn effort. Certainly last week was pretty monumental in the work that's taking place. And we're talking about a council of approximately 70 individuals serving for different roles, different capacities. And I know that Dr. Glass and Dr. Ellis has also played a big part in that conversation as well. So if you have not looked at or caught up on sort of the recap, I definitely encourage you to do so. And this is certainly something that is being done at a state level that I don't believe you'll find emulated anywhere else at this time. So the ultimate goal is to really address how we want students to give mastery and what that looks like, especially as we look at our assessments in a larger conversation around a very tenuous and often heated conversation around how we use testing measurements and how that pans out as far as schools and accomplishments go. Would you like to, I don't want to labor our time too long, so I'll defer to Dr. Ellis, and then if you want to bounce back to me, I'll just give you a couple of brief updates from OELE as well. That's okay, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Donna Cornell. On behalf of the Council of Post-Secondary Education and President Thompson, so glad to be here in person. So good to see you all. Just a couple of updates in line with the collaboration of United We Learn and really bringing stakeholders together. Dr. Thompson has also been out and about in community conversations. When he first started a few years ago, he did a listening tour. Now he's back around 3 or 4 years later and really talking about the progress that's been made. And we are so grateful that Commissioner Glass has been a part of those. It's very much a partnership that really targets our community members. So not just higher ed, definitely K-12, our business and industry folks, and our community leaders. And they've been really positive. We've been all over the state. We've been to far Western Kentucky, they are different. Louisville, we've been to Eastern Kentucky, and this spring we'll be back at EKU, University of Louisville, and Moorhead. So we're covering our ground and really having some impactful conversations about what we can do to contribute to the workforce and be partners in that. So it's not an education and then the workforce. It's really how we partner together from the very beginning of our education pipeline all the way through to help our students become meaningful contributors in our state. I just want to bring you a couple other quick highlights. I know the agenda is full today. We did host a higher equity symposium at NKU last month. It was really well attended. This is a part of what our public universities do as far as really building out a diverse and equitable and inclusive campus. For all of our campuses, we've worked really hard to really diversify our student body and to really address and really honor all the different needs and cultural differences in our on our campuses. And so it was really well attended. We had some incredibly powerful keynote speakers, and the most important to me is student voice on their experiences on campus, how they entered campus, and then just their experience and for things that we can be thinking about. So it was really well attended. It was a great learning event. And then the last thing I just want to bring to your attention, there's lots of things on here, is that preliminary enrollment overall is holding steady. We finally leveled out from COVID. That has been tough for our campuses, public and private, 2-year and 4-year. It's been really hard. So our total enrollment at both KCTCS and public universities held steady, while our underrepresented minority enrollment increased 4.6% at KCTCS, which was fantastic, and 1.5% at our public universities. Other highlights is we had gains in first-time college-going students enrollment up to 4.3% for our KCTCS campuses and 9.3% in our public universities. And so lots of efforts around that. Dual enrollment, which includes all of us around here, and especially with our teacher pipeline, is up 18.9% at KCTCS. They provide about 75% of our dual credit, so that's great, and 4.1% are public universities. Final enrollment numbers will come out in January, but I really want to applaud our campuses. They've worked incredibly hard to not just recruit, but support our students as they've come on campus. And that is not easy work. You all know in a K-12 setting what it's like to onboard students, get them back into the routine. This is really taking in students, whether they're residential or not, and you know, meeting their needs and helping them to excel. So kudos to all the efforts. And I will stop there. And Dr. Cornell, I'll follow it back to you to share your report.
Sounds great. Well, just highlight just a couple of items. First, I just always want to give credit to the staff of OELE that are working very hard to serve our ultimately our students, but our educators across the state and as well as this board. So I certainly want to recognize them always for the work that they do. Just a couple of items to bring your attention. One is it's a little bit of a preview, and I'd love to be able to show you from up here, but it's not really necessary and ready for production at this point. But, you know, the issue of just really how do you target what the teacher shortage is has been a very gray area. And it's not just Kentucky, it's across the nation. And it's just that the data streams are disparate and it's kind of difficult. It's a little bit of a moving target. I've been working a great deal with some of our finer data individuals, and we are on the cusp of having a heat map that will show obviously the counties, the districts, and essentially you hover over it and it gives you an idea of where they stand in terms of their educator workforce. So it's still in development, but I'm hopeful that it will be something that we can put out in the near future and help at least pinpoint a little bit more directly, and you don't have to search all over the place. You could just go and hover and use the fancy pointer to tell you. So I'm excited that this work is coming along, and hopefully will be live in the not so distant future. Secondly, I just would like to first off just say that the work that this board does is absolutely unparalleled, and it is absolutely important to the profession. And probably you're familiar, there have been some articles regarding sexual misconduct that have come out. And just to be clear, you know, any act that causes harm to a student is intolerable. And I know that you all, you know, serve to protect that. But there was a certain percentage that was in a lead that suggested or made mention that there were 61% of cases that were tied to sexual misconduct. And while in the context of that data, that's correct, but that was out of 194 cases as the sample size over a 10-year period. And so just for a point of reference, just want to recognize that always intolerable, and that is the work that you all take very seriously. The legal counsel works constantly in the pursuit of trying to do what is right and in the best interest of students as well as educators. And when you talk about it, you don't want to diminish it. So that's not the point. But when you put that in the context of all cases, it is going to be a hardly noticeable percentage in the 61% that was put in that particular line. So when you look at the context of all cases, you are looking at 2% or less in terms of reverting back to something that would be sexual misconduct. So just want to make sure that we value the work that you're doing and value the work that educators are doing, because each and every day there are tremendous things happening in our schools. So I just want to share those two thoughts with you. And at this time, I just would like to give our legislative policy liaison, Brian Perry, an opportunity to just give us a little update as we move toward the legislative session.
Good morning. Just a few quick updates because we are now a month out past the election. We're about a month away from the start of the 23 session. So quite a few changes, and then I'll wrap up by just kind of giving you a little sense of what we've been talking about throughout the interim. So over the summer and what I think is going to be some topics that the legislature is interested in. So first, Republicans expanded their supermajorities in both chambers after the election. So the House will be an 80-20 split. Best I can tell, this is the biggest supermajority since at least the early 90s. In the Senate, things are a little unsettled still, but I think they'll start session at 31-6 with one open seat because Morgan McGarvey is headed to Congress. And then another seat will open up because Senator Alvarado is headed to Tennessee to be their public health director. So when it's all said and done, I think we'll see 21 new members in the House and 8 new members in the Senate. Once those two special elections or two open seats are filled in the Senate, that's about on par for the House. It's about what we expect, somewhere around 25% every 2 years turnover. In the Senate, that's quite a bit more than normal. So it'll be interesting to see what the impact there is. And also keep in mind, this is the first election we've had with the new maps. So they did redistricting last session, so this is the first election we've seen. So that's maybe not too surprising that we see a little more turnover than normal in the Senate. We roll right out of one election into the next. So obviously the gubernatorial elections coming up next fall, along with the other constitutional offices. Primary is May 16th. Obviously, a lot of eyes will be on that because of the very crowded Republican field Governor Bashir announced his intent to run last week, as everyone expected. So, yeah, out of one election straight into the next. So we keep an eye on that. In terms of leadership changes for the State House, State Senate, there's only one. The leadership in the Senate will stay completely the same in the House. Representative Jason Demas will replace retiring Chad McCoy as Majority Whip. And that's the only leadership change in their House. So again, kind of good from our standpoint of just some steady, consistent leadership in both chambers. Now, at the chair level, we do see some more changes, a couple of which are important to note for us. The appropriations and revenue chairs do not change. So again, some good consistency for us. Education chairs will both be new. Representative Tipton and Senator West will assume the education chairs in their respective chambers. No strangers to education. They've both been chairs of budget review subcommittees related to education for the past few years. They were also the primary sponsors of the Read to Succeed legislation last session. So very familiar faces for us. Very excited to work with both of them as they settle into their new roles. Chair Wise, who was the education chair in the Senate, is moving over to economic development, tourism, and labor. So I'm sure we'll still continue to work with him in that role. The two BR sub chairs that are open because of Tipton and West moving up. Representative Banta will take over the House, and Senator-elect Matt Panine from the Elizabethtown area will take over in the Senate. And Representative Weber will be the Economic Development Workforce Chair in the House. So that's kind of the slate that I think we'll work most closely with. Yeah, so that's the leadership changes, and I know that's a fast rundown. You'll be hearing those names a lot in the next few years. 23 session starts January 3rd. It's a 30-day session. So there are only 30 legislative days. Calendar-wise, it's basically the same, a few weeks shorter. The reason for that is they'll gather a lot of in the first week in January, won't come back until February 7th, and then go through March 30th, which is signing day. So in terms of what I'm expecting to see, that relates to you all in particular, I think one of the items is on the agenda today. We've had a lot of conversations in both chambers about the praxis and the desire from the member standpoint to expand the options for folks looking to get into the profession while also holding the quality high, right? So not necessarily trying to lower standards, let people in, but are there ways that we can provide alternative testing ways to get folks into the profession? So it's been a big topic of conversation throughout the interim. I think that should you all decide to take action, then we'll probably not do anything this session. No promises there, but I think that they would prefer to see you all take action and see how that plays out, as opposed to passing legislation. But I don't think they're opposed to passing legislation if they would. So that's that. The other thing I think, and I'm not sure how this will impact you all eventually, or this board in particular, but there have been numerous conversations throughout the interim about bringing the teacher apprenticeship model that Tennessee has piloted, not piloted, but pioneered, I guess is a better word. So Dr. Darnell's office has been leading the conversations with CPE. I think there's a lot of interest from the members in both chambers about seeing something happen with that. So we've also really stressed that we don't want to see any new pathways. We have plenty. So we're really trying to work on educating members on what the existing pathways are and how districts can utilize those existing pathways to meet some of the demand that they're seeing. The last thing I'll mention is that Chair Mitchell, Dr. Darnell, and Mr. Blood all attended the legislative preview day last month. So starting to get some folks from this board a little more involved year-round in the advocacy and legislative efforts, but it doesn't stop. We'll roll right out of the session in March, and we'll have a bit of a breather before the interim starts officially in June. But that will kick off the budget session, right? So the interim will be focused on the 24 budget session. This never ends. So it's good to see Chair Mitchell and some others from this board starting to attend some of those legislative events throughout the year. We've kind of thrown out some additional dates for those folks to put on their calendars tentatively. So yeah, so I'm excited to kind of get more involved. So if you have any questions, that's a very quick update. I know I spent in like go up PJ does. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to. Thank you all.
Now move to the report of the chair. Justin is not here, so I am filling in. But we wanted to thank, we had 3 members of our board move on to different adventures. And so we are now missing Tracy Hunt, Julian Vasquez-Hiley, and Timothy Rooster. Tracy was appointed to represent school administrators, while Dr. Rooster and Dr. Vasquez-Hiley were representing educator prep program. I'd like to thank them for their service to EPSB and their dedication to education, and wish them well in their next steps. Due to this, we now have some openings on our waiver committee, and that has left us with 2 vacancies. The board's procedures establish a waiver committee that meets prior to board meetings to review the waiver request and make recommendations to the full board. The waiver committee consists of 1 teacher, 1 administrator, and 1 higher education representative. At this time, I appoint Corinne Murphy to serve as the higher education representative on the committee, and also Lee Stanfield to serve as the administrative representative. Thank you both members for your willingness to serve. We'll now move to the consent items. Items A through P are listed on the agenda as consent items. Does anyone wish to remove any of these items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Great. Having received no request to remove items from the consent agenda, can I have a motion to approve consent items A through P?
Make a motion to approve consent items A through C.
Very good motion.
All those in favor? Cancel the second. All right. The motion before the board is to approve consent items A through C. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. All right. The motion has been approved. Moving to the information item. This item is presented to the board for review and discussion only. This item is presented by Dr. Butt.
All right, I'll thank you this morning. The information item A, this is the only information item we have for you today, and that is starting on page 75 of your agenda book. This is part of the board's ongoing regulation review, where you do have to review your regulations every 7 years or they do expire. This particular regulation, the board certified it with the intent to amend on September 3rd of last year, which means that you must file an amended regulation by March 3rd of 2023. This regulation is 16 KAR 4060, and it sets the requirements for certification renewal. And the changes here, you can see those starting on page 76. But specifically, it removes the references to the outdated application forms. The board has been removing those forms from being incorporated by reference as we've moved to the online system. Instead, you specify the information that needs to be included for renewal. And then we have also expanded the language regarding experience gained as a substitute teacher or at the higher education level that can count for renewal. And those expansions are more in line with the certification practices. Are there any questions specifically about the regulation? This is the first reading, so we will be bringing this back to you for action at the next meeting. Thank you all.
All right, next we have action items. These are items presented to the board for action and will require a motion and a vote. Action item A is presented by Dr. Byron Darnell.
Well, this is certainly a topic that we've been engaged in for a few months now, with the exception of our new members that are kind of jumping into the fray here. But as Mr. Perry brought to the attention, just the conversations around the assessments that are required to obtain full licensure. And so I thank the board for the attentiveness and the discussions around this. But having gone through just the rounds of the options that are available and looking at what we currently have a recommendation based on an opportunity to approve and just to preface this on a trial basis, approve the -1 standard error of measurement and the praxis performance assessment for teachers to meet the requirements of certification assessments through December 31st, 2023. So a definitive window established. The proposed action will provide future teachers expanded options for meeting the certification requirements while still maintaining standards. The PPAT will offer test takers a performance-based alternative to standardized testing. Adopting a -1 standard error of measurement will create confidence intervals around the assessment and scores, around the assessment cut scores, and decrease the chance that people who have the abilities needed to serve as educators will fail the assessment due to an underrepresented score. So we are addressing the policy of KRS 161.028.1A that authorizes the EPSB to establish the requirements for attaining and maintaining a teacher certificate. It does specify that certification of all new teachers and teachers seeking additional certification shall require the successful completion of appropriate assessments prior to certification. The statute gives the authority to select the assessments and passing score to the EPSB, but requires that the assessments measure knowledge in the specific teaching field of the applicant, including content and teaching of that content, and measure those concepts, ideas, and facts which are being taught in teacher education programs in Kentucky. 16 KAR 6010 establishes the current examination of prerequisites for teacher certification set by EPSB. So in summary, at the October meeting, staff from the Educational Testing Service shared with EPSB data specific to Kentucky certification assessments, as well as alternate approaches to assessments that other states are exploring. So the EPSB learned about the PPAT, as it's monikered, and SEM and multiple measures. While a multiple measures approach will require ongoing review and exploration, the EPSB could take action now to implement the PPAT and SEM for a temporary period while soliciting feedback from test takers, educators, districts, and educator preparation providers regarding the effectiveness of these options. So at the October meeting, the EPSB discussed both the performance-based assessment, the PPAT, and the adoption of -1 SEM for cut scores for assessment. While there were concerns raised that the adoption of the -1 SEM will give the appearance of lowering standards since it sets the acceptable assessment score at a lower numerical value, it was noted that SEM is an established testing principle that represents how well the test score reflects true ability. ETS provides SEM because a praxis test, like any test, is less than perfectly reliable. So setting a score at 1 SEM below is a way to take into account the expert panel's identified just qualified level and to make an allowance for the chance that a candidate's score underrepresents their true ability. Although candidates whose ability is precisely at the just qualified level will not all get the recommended score as their score, they are likely to score near the recommended score, and theoretically, about 2/3 will score within 1 SEM above or below. Setting the standard at -1 SEM decreases the chance that a candidate who really has the knowledge will fail due to an underrepresented score. So we also have a recommendation from the Kentucky Association of Colleges of Teacher Education, CACTE, as we call them, that convened a task force to examine certification testing requirements for prospective educators in Kentucky. And as a result of this work, CACTE has submitted a letter that you've been provided and highlights the following. The task force unanimously affirms a -1 SEM adjustment to the cut scores for Praxis 2 content tests. Pedagogy and content knowledge should continue to be evaluated as evidence of a candidate's preparedness for the classroom. Colleges and universities can choose to allow passing scores on the PPAT or the Praxis PLT as options to reflect pedagogical proficiency. So 3 highlighted points from CACD's letter. So there's no budgetary impact at this time, which is a good thing for us. But before you is the opportunity to consider taking a trial window of time to examine how either of the 2 presented options can perhaps impact the need for the teaching vacancies that are out there. So I present to you the option of looking at both of the items.
A little note for the members, because you may not be able to see it behind you, but we do have staff from ETS on line. They are here with us in case you have any specific questions for them around SEM or the PPAT. Following the October meeting, Jason, who was with us in October, did provide you with those additional materials as well. But
so this will be starting from this point forward. Any of our prior test takers would not benefit from this option. Is that correct?
so the way that it is before you is that specifically with the -1 SEM, the way that it is written is if you passed that today, starting today through December 31st of next year, not just in a few days, that score would be valid for certification. So if you took the test 2 weeks ago and you failed the test under the current score, the -1 SEM would still apply to you. So your scores from 2 weeks ago could allow you to meet that. It's not requiring a person to again take the assessment if their scores are still in the validity period and they meet that score.
Okay, that was my question.
And then I think Dr. Darnell did highlight this as well. You kind of have 2 competing recommendations around the PPAT right now. So from CACD, you did have the recommendation regarding using it to along the lines of the PLT, and then the additional recommendation from staff, which is a broader use of it to meet all assessment requirements. But do you have a question from Dr. Murphy?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask the ETS staff, because I wasn't involved in the committee work. What is the comparison to the negative SEM of -1 as opposed to other states? What are we seeing in the other states? Are they sticking with -1, or are there some other options out there? Are we right on track?
So the answer is that quite a number of states are looking at the -1 SEM. We provide, as was noted, SEM as a confidence interval. And what we provide is -1, and -2, and +1 and +2 if you choose to go in that direction. But the idea of providing the confidence interval is that if you set the score within that -2, that +2 to -2 SEM confidence interval, then you're taking into account the expert judgment, but you're making a call on how to practically implement it. So a number of other states have been looking at this. They have not generally set it at the -2. States that are looking at this have been tending to make the adjustment to the -1 SEM.
Great, thank you, Eric.
We should be good.
Can you review our vote? Dr. Murphy, can you hear us now?
Now I can, yes, thank you.
We apologize. The motion was just the motion to approve action item A, and the board did vote to approve action item A. Did you have any? Did you want to-
My vote would have been approved as well, yes.
All right, back to action item B.
Good morning. For action items B through J, they're all option 9. So we have the existing policy. KRS 161.04810 establishes the option 9 alternative route to certification. This route provides for the expedited certification of a person to teach at any grade level through a cooperative program between a college or university and a school district. The expedited certification program will result in a bachelor's degree and initial certification within 3 school years. The candidate is not certified while completing the route, but shall complete a residency or professional component and receive coaching and mentoring from experienced teachers. So for action item B, Breckenridge County Schools has partnered with the University of Cumberland to develop a proposed option 9 program. In accordance with section 5 of the regulations, staff has reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements of KRS 161.048 and 16 KR 9110. A copy of the application was included in your board materials.
Thank you. I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve action item B.
Thank you. Now, is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion before the board is to approve action item B. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, this motion has passed. Next, we have action item C.
Okay, action item C is Davis County Schools have partnered with University of Cumberland to develop a proposed option 9 program. In accordance with section 5 of the regulations, staff have reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements. Copy of the application was included in your documents.
Is there a motion?
I offer a motion for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Barry. Motion for the board is to approve action item B. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. This motion has passed. We will now move to action item D.
Okay, action item D is Edmonson County Schools has partnered with the University of Cumberland to develop a proposed option 9 program. In accordance with section 5 of the regulations, staff has reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements. Again, the application's been included in your document.
Motion.
Motion to approve action item D.
And a second. Now, the motion before the board is to approve action item D. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
I do, it's just a point of order. Are we able to move to bundle action items E through I since they're all of the same?
So they are slightly different programs. So if we could, but I do believe that Dr. Deagle will be able to move quickly through those.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And Dr. Murphy, if you can, when we vote, if you can unmute just so that we can get you reported for the record too. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We are on action item E.
Okay, action item E, Elliott County Schools has partnered with University of Cumberland to develop a proposed option 9 program in accordance with section 5 of the regulations. Staff have reviewed the application, found that it meets the requirement.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve action item E.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Stanfield. The motion before the board is to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, this motion has been approved. We now move on to action item F.
Action item F is Glasgow Independent Schools, which has partnered with the University of Cumberland to develop a proposed Option 9 program. In accordance with Section 5 of the regulation, staff have reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements.
All right, again, I will need a motion.
Make a motion to approve action item F.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. First second from Mr. Fryer over here. Motion before the board is to approve action item F. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, this motion has been approved. Now I move to action item G.
Action item G is Menifee County Schools, which has partnered with the University of Cumberland to develop a proposed Option 9 program. In accordance with Section 5 of the regulation, staff have reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements.
Excellent. I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve action item G.
Snell, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Diane Berry. The motion for the board is to approve action item G. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, this motion has been approved. We are now moving to action item H.
Action item H is slightly different. This one, they've asked for specific approval of programs, LBD, IBCE, and elementary. So this is Campbellsville Independent Schools has partnered with Campbellsville University to develop a proposed Option 9 program, again for LBD, IBCE, and elementary. In accordance with Section 5 of the regulation, staff have reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirement.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'd offer a motion for approval of action item H.
Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second out of Ms. Berry. Motion before the board is to approve action item H. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion has passed. Next is action item I.
Action item I, again, a slight difference is that this one, the candidate for the program would have to be employed as a paraprofessional within an elementary. So this is Carter County Schools has partnered with Kentucky Christian to develop a proposed Option 9 program in accordance with Section 5 of the regulation. Staff has reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirements.
Excellent. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve action item I.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stanfield, the motion before the board is to approve action item 9. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Aye.
All right, this has passed. We now move to action item J.
J is slightly different because it's a co-op. So they've had in their agreement, they say that they will be employed within a partner district in elementary education. So this is Kentucky Educational Development Corporation, has partnered with Kentucky Christian University in accordance with, to develop a proposed Option 9 program. In accordance with Section 5 of the regulation, staff have reviewed the application and found that it meets the requirement.
A motion?
Offer motion, approval, action item J.
Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Do we have a second?
Second.
Now, the motion before the board is to approve action item J. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, this has passed.
Thank you.
If I may, getting back to Dr. Murphy's point about those applications. So because the Option 9 programs are new, we have been bringing those back to you through the action item process. However, typically the programs that come to you for approval from your colleges and universities, those come to you as consent items. So now that you've had a few meetings to review the option 9 programs, if you would like at future meetings, we can bring these back to you as consent items. Therefore, the board would be able to review them all at once. And if you had concerns, you could pull the specific one off as an action item. Does that sound like something the board would like to do?
Yeah.
On that note, if I may, Cassie, sorry, I'd raised my hand, but I'm not there. I just want to point out again, and I know we heard it earlier during the information items that we received from the state. There's not really anything in here in these applications that universities can't already do with school districts. So while we appreciate that option 9 is yet another option, it is additional hoops that at this point are pretty unnecessary. And I just want to point that out. I'm happy to see all the conversations happening across the state, but from an EPP perspective, there's not anything in that regulation that we can't already do.
Thank you. All right, we will now move to waivers. The board is ready to review the waiver request. KRS 161 1N provides that the board has the authority to waive its administrative regulations when a request is submitted by an applicant for certification, a post-secondary institution, or a superintendent of a local school district. When requesting a waiver, the requesting party must submit to the board in writing a written request along with appropriate justification for the waiver. EPSB staff reviewed the waivers with EPSB's waiver committee during an open meeting immediately prior to this meeting, and the waiver committee formulated recommendations. Brandon Harrod and Crystal Ford will present the waiver committee's recommendations to the board, and Dr. Darnell will present the committee's recommendations for final action, starting with waiver A.
Thank you, Vice Chair Weedman. Good morning, board.
Sure.
We'll start with waiver A, which was submitted by Morehead State University on behalf of Catherine Broswell. Catherine was in her placement before her father became ill and had to be hospitalized. She was the primary caregiver for her father. This left her a few days short of completing her placement. To compound the issue, she was placed in Fleming County, which had already had significant flooding, which had shortened their school calendar. They had her do online observations through Google Classroom. They've given some supplemental plans. They kept in contact with her. They provided information that they believe that she has gone above and beyond in fulfilling her obligations while also falling short of the required 70 days. They have submitted this due to unforeseen circumstances beyond the control of the student, asking that a few of those days be waived.
All right, at this time, I will need a motion.
Dr. Darnell,
Oh.
share the waiver committee's recommendation.
Yep, we might need that.
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request, supporting documentation submitted by Morehead State University. The committee found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommended that EPSB grant the waiver.
All right, now that we know the recommendation, I will need a motion.
A motion for approval on waiver A. With
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Baird. Mr. Stanfield, the motion before the board is to approve waiver A. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Waiver A has passed. Next up, we have waiver B.
Thank you, Vice Chair Weedman. So this one was submitted by the University of Kentucky on behalf of Christina Lascarzo. It's an alternative student teaching placement request. Christina is a student in the Master's of Arts in Teaching World Languages with an emphasis in Latin. They're having a difficulty finding a Latin elementary placement, so they've requested that her placement be completed at the secondary level for Latin.
Very good. The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request and supporting documentation submitted by the University of Kentucky. The committee found exceptional circumstances. Therefore, the committee recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Excellent, thank you. I will need a motion.
Motion.
To approve.
To approve.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Berry. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. The motion before the board is to approve waiver B. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, this waiver has passed. Now we'll move to waiver C.
Vice Chair Rubin. This one was submitted by Midway University on behalf of Nathan Martin. When reaching out to Fayette County, they placed Mr. Martin. They were seeking a middle school social studies placement. They found an individual that had both certification in math and social studies, but was teaching math at the time during his academic year. He was placed for 5 days with this cooperating teacher. During that time, they discussed lesson planning. They did one-on-one experiences with students. They talked about what kind of teacher that Mr. Martin wanted to be and set a goal for that. Once they discovered that the cooperating teacher was actually teaching math and not social studies, they reached back out to the district and got him replaced with a social studies teacher in the middle school setting. They're requesting that those 5 days that he was with the math teacher count towards his placement so that he can complete all 70 days of student teaching.
Waiver committee reviewed the request by Midway University, found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver, and therefore recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the waiver.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, the motion before the board is to approve waiver C. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, waiver C has been approved. We will now move on to waiver D. Vice Chair. Good morning, board.
Go ahead.
Waivers D through L are all going to be similar, so I'm going to try to move through those quickly. These are all first-time requests for emergency certification. These candidates did not qualify for the language in House Bill 277 to receive a second emergency certification for the year, since it was the first. Waiver D is requested by Boone County Schools in an effort to fill 2 vacant ESL positions. The candidate did not meet the GPA requirements for emergency certification. Therefore, the district is requesting a waiver of the requirements in 2120 for the remainder of the 2022-23 school year.
And the committee reviewed Boone County Schools waiver submission and found exceptional circumstances and recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve action B.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, with the second, the motion before the board is to approve waiver D. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, waiver D has been approved. Now to waiver E.
Waiver E is the same waiver request for the second ESL position for Boone County Schools.
And similarly, the waiver committee recommends that EPSB grant the waiver for Boone County Schools.
Excellent. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve waiver E.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. The motion for the board is to approve waiver E. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. This waiver has been approved. Now we move to waiver F.
Waivers F and G are both submitted by Bourbon County Schools. Waiver F is for an LBD special ed position that they did not have any certified or qualified applicants for. The same parameters. The district is requesting a waiver of the GPA requirement.
Waiver committee reviewed Bourbon County Schools request and recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
I will need a motion.
Motion to approve item waiver F, is it F? Angie?
Just F, right?
Just F now? I'll try again.
Okay.
I offer a motion to approve waiver F.
Thank motion before the board is to approve waiver F. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, this motion has been approved. This waiver has been approved. We will now move to waiver G.
Waiver G is the second Bourbon County Schools request. It is for an alternative school position due to a sudden resignation.
And the waiver committee reviewed the request submitted by Bourbon County Schools and recommends that EPSB grant.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will need a motion.
Motion to approve waiver G.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Do we have a second? All right, okay, now the motion before the board is to approve waiver G. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Waiver G has been approved. Now to waiver H.
Waiver H is requested by Danville Independent Schools for a vacant special ed position. Same request. They are requesting a waiver of the GPA requirement.
And the waiver committee reviewed the request from Danville Independent Schools and he found exceptional circumstances justifying the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that EPSB grant.
Okay, thank you, guys. Is there a motion?
For a motion to approve waiver H, sorry.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. The motion before the board is to approve waiver H. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the waiver has been approved. Now we have waiver I.
Waiver I is requested by Owen County Schools, and this is for a vacant Spanish position. Same request, the district is requesting a waiver of the GPA requirement for the current year.
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver submission by Owen County Schools and found justifying circumstances and recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Now the motion before the board is to approve waiver I. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Aye, sorry.
All right, this waiver has been approved. We now move to waiver J.
Waiver J is requested by Powell County Schools. This is for a vacant special education LBD position. Same request. This is for a waiver of the GPA requirement for the current year.
Waiver committee reviewed Powell County Schools waiver submission and recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. I'll need a motion.
Motion to approve waiver J.
Now, we have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. The motion before the board is to approve waiver J. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Waiver J has been approved. Now we move to waiver K.
Waiver K is requested by Scott County Schools. This is for a middle school technology position for which they had no applicants. Same request, GPA waiver for the current school year.
Waiver committee reviewed Scott County Schools waiver submission and recommend that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. At this time, is there a motion?
Motion to approve waiver K.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion for the board is to approve waiver K. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Waiver K has been approved. We will now move to the next letter of the alphabet, waiver L.
Waiver L is the final waiver of 2120. This is requested by Williamstown Independent Schools. This is for a vacant special ed LBD position. Same request to waive the GPA requirement for the current school year.
The waiver committee reviewed Williamstown Independent Schools submission for the waiver and recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve waiver L.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Motion before the board is to approve waiver L. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Waiver L has been approved. We now move to waiver M.
Waiver N, for a change of pace, is regulation 4080, which is the out-of-state recency regulation. Murray Independent Superintendent has requested this waiver on behalf of Mr. Darren Bowling. Mr. Bowling is a 31-year experienced teacher from the states of Mississippi, Louisiana, and Tennessee. The district finds itself in a known predicament along the border counties that sometimes recruit from out of state and find that they are unable to recruit because of Kentucky's requirement to meet the recency requirement, which is that someone whose educator preparation program was completed more than 5 years ago, even though we no longer have the rank 2 requirement, our recency regulation requires that they have 6 hours of graduate credit within the previous 5 years. So Murray Independent District is requesting a waiver of 4080 based on his 31 years of teaching experience out of state as a certified teacher.
The waiver committee reviewed requests from Murray Independent Schools and the committee recommends that EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve waiver M.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Keller, the motion before the board is to approve waiver M. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right, the waiver has been approved. Waiver N.
Waiver N is requested by the candidate, Ms. Lindsay Ackerman. This is a waiver request of 6010, the assessment regulation. Ms. Ackerman has been employed with the Louisville Archdiocese upon graduation from her Option 6 MAT program. However, where she was in a private school setting, there was not pressure at that time to immediately apply for her professional certificate upon program completion. At the time that she completed the program, she was missing one of her elementary praxis assessments, which she subsequently took in 2021. However, this year, when she applied for certification, she was informed by our staff that her test that she had taken and passed in 2016 and 2017 had exceeded the 5-year recency. So she's requesting a waiver of the 5-year recency for testing assessments.
Waiver committee reviewed Ms. Ackerman's submission for waiver and recommends that the EPSB grant the waiver.
Thank you. I will need a motion.
Motion to approve waiver M.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second from Ms. Berry. The motion for the board is to approve waiver N. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. All right, waiver N has passed. And lastly, we will move to waiver O.
Waiver O is a waiver request by the candidate, Ms. Elizabeth Siano. This is a request to waive the requirement in the rank 2 regulation, 16 KAR 8020. She is requesting that her Master of Divinity be accepted as a rank 2 program, or rank 2, to be recognized for rank 2 with her certification as a business teacher.
The waiver committee reviewed the waiver request, supporting documentation submitted by the applicant. The committee did not find exceptional circumstances to justify the waiver. Therefore, the committee recommends that the EPSB deny the waiver request.
Thank you. At this time,
I make a motion to deny the waiver.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion before the board is to deny waiver O. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of denying waiver O, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. This waiver did not follow through. That has been denied. And that concludes all of our waivers. Thank you. We will now move to alternate route certification. We have one alternate route certification application. This applicant is pursuing option 1, exceptional work experience route to certification. This is one of the alternate routes established by the legislature in KRS 161.048. An applicant of exceptional work experience must have an offer of employment from a local school district, a bachelor's or graduate degree meeting a minimum pay requirement in an academic major or passing for an academic content assessment in the area of which certification is being sought. The board will need to determine if the applicant's work experience constitutes exceptional work experience. The applicant is presented by Ms. Ford. Thank you.
The item before you today is for Mr. Zachary Owsley. He has been offered employment with Scott County Schools as a health and PE teacher. Mr. Owsley has a Bachelor of Science in Health and Human Performance, as well as a Master of Science in Physical Education. He has over 5 years of work experience in the field of health and PE as a hospital fitness trainer. He has been responsible for assessing patients' health needs, cardiopulmonary needs, creating exercise programs for patients, as well as creating in-home exercise and nutrition programs for them to follow. And as well as working with high school athletes with their orthopedic injuries and exercise programs for them. I won't read everything on the background sheet, but you all have that in the documentation that was provided to you. His portfolio did meet all of the requirements under the KRS 161.048, which is the statute for alternative certification. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions? All right, we will go into motion.
I'd offer a motion for approval for alternate route A.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Berry. The motion before the board is to approve alternate route A. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, this has been approved. We will now move to board comment. The floor is open to any board member who would like to speak. Does anyone have anything they would like to share?
That is his time.
Okay. At this time, I will need a motion to go into closed session in pursuant to KRS 1.810 and to conduct a character and fitness review and to review potential actions relating to the report. At this time, is there a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you both. Hearing, is there any discussion about going into closed session? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Aye.
All right, we will now move into a time of closed session. All right, we are now back in open session at this time, and we will vote on those items discussed during closed session. So I will read out the proceedings. So character and fitness, case 1 was denied. 2 through 5 approved. Number 6 denied. 7 through 10 approved. Moving to online character fitness. 1 through 7 approved. 8 denied. 9 through 15 approved. Okay. Character and fitness, 11 through 17, approve. 18, deny. 19 through 20, approve. Character and fitness, online, 16 through 21, approve. And agreed orders, 1 through 29, accept. 30 through 49, accept.
Go ahead.
Finding of. Okay, our 2 recommended orders, 1 and 2 approve. Motion to consider, 1 deny. Our educator cases, 1 through 2 admonish. Number 3, attorney review. 4, dismiss with prejudice. 5, attorney review. 6, dismiss with prejudice. 7 through 27, attorney review. 28, dismiss with prejudice. 29, attorney review. 30 through 32, dismiss with prejudice. 33, attorney review. 34 through 36, dismiss with prejudice. 37, 38, attorney review. 39 through 45, dismiss with prejudice. 46, attorney review. 47 through 52, dismiss with prejudice. 53, no further action. 54 through 59, dismiss with prejudice. 60, dismiss without prejudice. 61 through 64. 61 through 63, refer to hearing. 64, no further action. 65 through 68, refer to hearing. 69, dismiss with prejudice. 70 through 73, dismiss with prejudice. 74 and 75, defer for training. 76, dismiss with prejudice. 77 through 81, defer for training. 82, dismiss with prejudice. 83 through 85, defer for training. 86 and 87, dismiss with prejudice. 88, defer for training. 89 through 91, dismiss with prejudice. 92, defer for training. 93, dismiss with prejudice. 94, defer for training. 95 and 96, dismiss with prejudice. 97, defer for training. 98 through 101, dismiss with prejudice. 102, defer for training. 103 and 104, dismiss with prejudice. 105 and 106, defer for training. 107 and 108, dismiss with prejudice. 109, defer for training. 110, defer for training. 101 and 112, dismiss with prejudice. 113, defer for training. 114 and 115, dismiss with prejudice. 116, defer for training. 117, dismiss with prejudice. 118 and 119, defer for training. 120 and 121, dismiss with prejudice. 122, defer for training. 123 through 126, dismiss with prejudice. 127, defer for training. 128 through 131, dismiss with prejudice. 132 and 133, defer for training. 134 through 137, dismiss with prejudice. 138 through 142, defer for training. 143, dismiss with prejudice. 144 and 145 defer for training, 146 through 149 dismiss with prejudice, 150 through 154 defer for training, 155 dismiss with prejudice, 156 through 157 defer for training, 158 and 159 dismiss with prejudice, 160 attorney review, 161 dismiss with prejudice, 162 dismiss without prejudice, 163 defer for training, 164 and 165 dismiss with prejudice. At this time, we will vote.
I vote to, number one, I will have to recuse myself on character and fitness, approve the rest.
Barry,
Diane Berry, I approve all. Priscilla Keller, I approve all.
Amanda Ellis, approve all.
CJ Fryer, approve all.
Amber Snell, approve all.
Corinne Murphy, approve all as recommended.
Sarah Weedman, approve on all and recuse myself from educator case number 4. At this time. Take a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make the motion for adjournment at this time.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Barry, all right, at this time, our meeting is concluded.
Thank you.